video. Welcome to a subscriber special. Thank you for subscribing. That's how we got 2,500 subscribers. But look, in today's video, we'll be looking at a scenario in which the democracies and the autocracies go to war. And well, as you can see in North America and Europe, the advantages in democracies. With Asia possibly advantage with the red team, Africa, it's a tight one. But with the first offensives happening, an American-led invasions. Also keep in mind this is based on democracy scores. If it was over 0.30, they are on the democracy team, 0.30 out of 1. Lower than that, that's the autocracy team. And well, Venezuela gets split in half before Americans arrive. And they quickly move into Nicaragua, taking it over. But in Africa, both teams make moves to try to secure their dominance. Like right here in the Tunisia Falls. With the fall of the Panhandle into the DRC, and the DRC's capital of the DRC is pretty much neutralized by the autocracies as an offensive by Chad, Sudan, South Sudan, Congo, and Cameroon completely crumbles the nation. An offensive in Tanzania, which doesn't get fire. An offensive here. And an offensive is launched here. And over here. And one over here just to secure the border of there. With a falling. But don't worry, the blue team is going to have some advantages as they completely kick them Eswatini, completely collapse Zimbabwe, and start moving right into Angola. And they also go around and invade above the front line, completely encircling 10,000 troops, maybe even 100,000 troops. But it's hard to say, because, well, there's no numbers on these front lines. But anyways, pretty much a lot has happened. As you can see, a lot's still happening. With Nigeria deciding to strengthen the border, they launch an invasion here and one into parts of Cameroon. And into Chad and Libya, but not too far because they don't want to go too far into a desert. But they will later. And in the Middle East, one that I was surprised to kind of see reach democracy levels. But one that's just faking to be a democracy. And no, it's not Iraq. It's this nation. Okay, I guess they don't exist anymore. But they do. I'm not going to say anything else about that. Or else I'll have 1 billion comments. Although that would be pretty good. 1 billion views. Georgia and Armenia falls, with Iraq quickly falling behind. With an advantage in the first part of this war being taken by the Russians, with the Russians taking opportunity in the weakness of the Baltics. They quickly move in and cut it off. And well, the Baltics probably get supplied once before they fall. And well, in Ukraine, they come in the north, and they come in the east, and they come in from the south, quickly connecting the south and west front line. And then making a dash for Kiev, which undoubtedly fails. Well, they're already here, so let's say for interesting sake, it's not, Ukraine isn't as strong as it is as well. Yeah. But don't worry, they also have help from China. With Turkey launching an offensive into Greece and some surrounding islands to destroy the Greek navy. With Serbia taking the initiative and taking out Montenegro and Kosovo, moving into Romania, Serbia, Croatia, Macedonia, and Bulgaria. With Belarus and Russia deciding to leave a defensive line, and they do that along the Finnish border. And let's see the Asian theater. well, before we start, we need to see a few things happen. The fall of Kyrgyzstan quickly happens, and the fall of Mongolia with a two-front war cutting them in half. Around Ulaanbaatar and taking the city, they move down like that and over here. And the country completely surrenders. With a quick move made by China to invade South Korea to defend itself. And a landing in Taiwan eventually yields Taiwan's surrender. And Thailand and China push into Malaysia. Although there's a few problems, India takes the initiative. The Indian front takes the initiative, with Bangladesh quickly falling. And yeah, quickly falls. An offensive in the Myanmar takes back this area, makes small offensive. You know what's a bit weird about this? Pakistan and India are on a team. With an attack on Iran, even goes into the Middle East, this front. And an attack on Afghanistan probably won't go at too well, although India did have Afghanistan as a Mughal empire. Now let's shift to the African front, with the push into Angola going pretty well. With Angola having a strong military, they're steadily being pushed back. Seeing this as probably the weakest zone of control for the blue team, America starts sending some of their forces down to this front as they have no front at home. With this front being pushed back a bit, but with a spearhead being launched in to connect with this front, which ends up doing it well. So now, supplies can get from front line to front line, alleviating the pressure Morocco's putting on. And Algeria with a breakthrough happening into the Western Sahara. Just to let you know, I don't know if the Western Sahara was a democracy or not as well. Yeah, it had no data. Yeah. With the blue team pushing them back here. Pushing Guinea back. And pushing this area back. With this being a morale boost for the blue team as they've just managed to have a breakthrough after an encirclement. Seeing that they have the potential to win this conflict. And they use that to their advantage with a breakthrough happening on the Ethiopian front. But unfortunately, it doesn't break fully. But Somalia is unable to hold itself back. This isn't good for Ethiopia because with them moving right up into Somalia and even Somaliland, they use this to their advantage to invade Ethiopia. This leads Ethiopia to move troops from defending South Sudan. So South Sudan decides to withdraw some troops, which is a bit of a big deal for the red team. With the red team only really having Egypt and Algeria and Morocco at this point, that's good and strong. With South Sudan falling, and the question is whether they should continue, but they decide to push back in this front. And, well, before we go to the European front, this is the front lines. With Russia soon going to be locked in this stalemate, they realize, they take Kiev at this point. And they try to move the ground so it may favor them in the, when they have to go into defensive. With parts of Poland falling, this is a big chunk. But unfortunately, before the stalemate, well, this is what the front line looks like at the stalemate in this front. And then in the Asian front, a goal is made to take back South Korea. This goes really bad for the blue team. And, well, land naval invasions made into Indonesia. I forget the name of this island, Sumatra maybe? And they also land into the island of Borneo. With them holding as much as they can, but eventually it yields too much. With China's forces landing in the southern Philippines and the northern Philippines, this takes it out. But with America deciding the front they need to wipe out is the African front, as they easily can. With multiple troops being sent in, so many troops that, well, it becomes a front with like every front attacking it. As they yield this one for future success, the most important front line, well, they move it back to where Egypt is able to hold it. With Algeria holding on a bit longer, still unable to make counter-offensives, they lose their capital city. With this being a massive success and a massive morale boost. With America dealing with low oil. Yep, exactly. That's what we have now, low oil. They make a landing in Oman to take oil. Really? No, I'm kidding about that. But are they? Possibly? No, I doubt it. With Egypt getting pushed back in the north, and Sudan's capital, Khartoum, falls, and Egypt is getting pushed to the brink. With Egypt starting to have many problems, its people end up revolting, and yeah, they end up being taken over. With them deciding to take out Serbia because the Russian front is scary. Oh wait, I forgot one thing. Turkey's front is like this. Eventually it meets up with the Russian front, and that's where the stalemate happened. With two Middle East offensives, but now the Israeli Liberation War breaks out and the Iraqi Liberation War as the air forces of Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Iran, and any nation really in this region has been deactivated, basically. No, disassembled. No, that's not it. What's the word? Obliterated, maybe. Be a word used. With Saudi Arabia being under so much pressure, their government collapses and they surrender. With Iran being the next front for them to go after, as Iran's pretty strong. But when Tehran falls, Iran has no chance. But Iran does make a counteroffensive here and in the south. But majority of what they used for this is Russian equipment, and a lot was lost because this was a last-ditch attempt, so they just threw in men at the line to do this. With no possibility of winning, and the fall of the government, the fall of Tehran, you could say. And now they decide the best nation to go after is Turkey. This is basically World War III, I just realized, but better. With them deciding to invade on two fronts. With Turkey losing Istanbul quick, because, well, there's more troops sent in than they can successfully counter-offend. Turkey collapses in on itself. And as China's people start rebelling, what do I mean by that? Well, I may or not mean this area. With them being the Democratic Front is what they form. With the Democratic Front in China being formed, China starts collapsing. As the Democratic Front starts the fall of Southeast Asia begins because they're facing trouble at home. With the fall of North Korea next, the fall of Russian Manchuria, the fall of the communist government in China has happened. And all Russian occupied territory, because that's what it's called now, is repelled from. With Russia deciding to retreat to a defensive line, which is very crazy. With them falling out of Crimea, out of the Caucasus, out of Central Asia, out of Belarus, out of Kaliningrad, with deciding to set up a defensive here. With them losing St. Petersburg in the setup. They also set one up in northern Kazakhstan, and, well, they also set one up here. So they withdraw to here, with them moving their industry away from the people. Away and away they shall hide it, as their collapse is imminent. As they start falling on this front, the fallback line on this front isn't working, so eventually they do. But at this point, the Russian state ends up hidden in the mountains, literally. And the Russian people aren't that great at surrendering. But Russia completely falls. Winter starts, Russia shows up again. No, that's not how it works. And that's all for today's video. As the whole world is now a democracy. Isn't that great? Or it's a bad thing, depends on who you ask. But democracies are great. Maybe they could be better, but they're great. But they could be better. Not too political, but yes, it's very political. And everyone is happy and all the famine stops. Nope, that's not what happens. This is not Western propaganda at all. But that's all for today's video. Please like, subscribe, and comment. And don't forget to leave a subscribe, because when we get to 3,000 subscribers, there'll be another special. So please subscribe. Bye, guys. Wild Mapper out.